The main character's name is Lin Hao. He is an orphan, he has neither father nor mother. He looks like a high school student, but his real age is a secret. Now he is streaming, pretending to be a schoolboy so that naive young girls donate to him. He doesn't want to reveal to anyone who he is in order to keep his sanity. But he would never believe what was happening. But this is enough to destroy all his ideas about the world. A rift appeared in the sky from which the great god Agatha Nicholas crawled out. All the people began to panic, thinking that it was the end of the world. God said to honor him and rejoice in mortals. After all, they are called as his noble warriors. He ordered them to fight for him, and so that they don't try to escape. Because they are under a dome that will keep them inside. God was kind to them and gave them 10 minutes to realize their fate. After the time runs out, he will return and announce their first mission. And I hoped that they would prepare well. All people began to hysterically call their relatives or friends to find out something, but there was no connection. At that moment, the giant lifted the bench on which the protagonist was sitting and threw it up into the sky with all his strength. But she fought back and Ricochet crushed him. At this moment, the main character did not know what to do and whether he and the rest of the people could get out. He decided to look at his phone and there he saw an alert saying that these were gifts from the distant future. Unknown hoped that this time he could go further. There was a talent draw. The guy realized that judging by the reaction of people only he had this thing. After spinning the wheel of luck 5 times, he got 5 new talents and he decided to find out about them. The first one was called, Trash Can. Ordinary rank. Trash can, even if he eats shit, after graying it will feel like he ate the highest delicacy. The ability to walk to the toilet for 10 meters. Normal rank, he can shoot a stream of urine 10 meters forward. Against the wind, he can switch anyone who is attached next to him. Spirit Guy is an excellent passive ability rank. The Spirit Guy is just very energetic. He decided to skip the epic ability and immediately look at the mythical one. The Game of Life is a mythical rank. Nothing scares you. Minotaur? Demon? All of them are NPCs and all their weaknesses are immediately visible. Previously, the guy thought that some kind of confidence and self-awareness that he was the best among everyone because he had a cheat. The whole secret of his confidence is that the mythical talent began to act. If you think like that, it is possible to get rid of any fear in the most unpredictable situation and not lose your temper very well. But courage is the only bonus from this skill. And he moved on to the epic skill he missed. Alphonse epic rank. Alphonse, if the girl is stronger than you, the initial favor to you is plus 50. Some men with special hobbies are also in the course of the activity range. At this moment the head of the protagonist began to hurt very much, after which he began to see the system status of each person. He also noticed that he can remove the panel of characters with just the power of thought. He decided to try this panel on someone else. Then a girl passed by him and in her panel wrote advice that although this girl looks soft and weak, the guy needs to be careful. She comes from a martial arts family. 3 of the 4 attributes she has are stronger than his. She is clearly stronger than him. So he needs to start using the gigolo skill. After using the skill, the girl became friendly to the main character. After that, the guy realized that it didn't seem to him and not only the Game of Life, but Alphonse too, can be considered a good skill. The girl approached him and asked what he was doing here alone. Did he lose his parents? She behaves very circumspectly to these changes. It only proves that he is still in a state of anxiety, and even despite this, she still decided to give priority to the main character trying to somehow take care of him. The girl thought that the boy was afraid of her and did not want to answer the question. But he answered her that everything was in order, because he simply did not know what to answer because he had neither a mother nor a father. She began to apologize and did not know that he was an orphan. Also, the girl took his hand and began to lead and said that she could be his family. She introduced herself and her name was Lin Xiaoyun. But the guy was allowed to call him Sister Yun or just Xiaoyun. At that moment, a man called out to her and said that you can't just run away so thoughtlessly, because right now dangers can lurk in any corner. But the girl told him that this guy is very weak and he might not survive without them, so they must protect him. The bodyguard, agreed to take the guy with him. In the status of a bodyguard, it was recorded that his power was 6, physique 5, dexterity 3. The system's advice was that this guy was a master of sports in Muay Thai. And that he is very good at close combat. But the main character is better to stay away from him, because if there is a critical situation, he will first of all leave him. At that moment, a being called God appeared and it said, "My chosen noble warriors, most of you understood the situation you were in. Well, you come from a completely civilized world, with gods and no danger, and you haven't received the baptism of blood and fire yet. You still cannot be called full-fledged warriors. So in your first task, there will be a trial test. Randomly distributes into several groups of 10 people and send to different worlds so that you fight monsters there." The bodyguard turned around and saw that the guy just turned to stone and thought that he would be a burden. The protagonist looked at the system window of the monster and found out that its level is too high, so he will not be able to recognize any of its weaknesses. Although he was lucky because the creature is similar to the female gender and thanks to the ability of the gigolo it is friendly to him, the main character was surprised that Alphonse's skill also works on the ancient gods. The monster continued and said that out of pity for some of them, she is the merciful Agatha Nicholas, her noble warrior, to die in vain. Therefore, death in a test trial will not be real for them. They won't die. But the pain they will experience, all the sensations, will be real. She ordered them to fight because they were looking forward to their performance. After moving, the main character woke up already in a cave full of cobwebs. He had seen enough and saw that Xiaoyun and her bodyguard No were with him, and he realized that they were most likely sent to another group. They were all in a cave full of spiders. People began to panic a little and did not understand what to do. One very strong guy said that they would not panic because they are just spiders and they are people, the main predators of the planet. Hundreds of millions of years, the mug of the food chain. Are people supposed to be afraid of some spiders? He also said that if they use their most powerful weapon, intelligence and unity, I will be afraid of hundreds of spiders. At this moment, we raise Vladislav's stone slab on which it was written that some fell into the lair of the spider's mother monster. Female spiders during the breeding season become extremely aggressive. Note this world has been modified and the monster's IQ has been lowered on purpose. Escape from their line of sight will stop the pursuit, but that's only here. This will not happen in other worlds. They did not understand what to do. Some of them wanted to go all together, but the rest were afraid that some of them would fall behind, because there are too many of them here. The protagonist immediately realized that the best solution here would be to split into small units, so it would be easier to protect each other and move around. But he understood that he would not convince anyone to listen to his idea. He'll just have to wait and watch. If the old god didn't lie. On the floor altogether is not such a bad idea, but someone will still die. The ancient god said that because this is their first assignment, he will give them a hint. He told them to enter the cave and do their best to survive, and also try to go as deep as possible. But if they linger in the starting location, the spider gets angry and attacks them. People immediately gathered and wanted to leave. After all, they did not want to meet the spider. Unknown solid guy told everyone to go because it's just spiders. Plus, they have weapons. He said drop the sisters and go for this test. The main character decided that he would stay behind and follow everything. Study the situation. Walking along the path, two guys in front were discussing why the main character is walking behind. But one of them decided that he would not help them in any way. So let him stay behind them. He thinks that he is weaker than each of the group of people. He suggested that this child is one of those who are silent all the time waiting for a good moment to take the initiative. And when such a chance falls out of stupidity, he dies first. He wanted to leave him far to go in case the spider was chasing them. If that happens, then they just put it to her to eat. At this moment, from the roar in the wall, a spider attacked the girl who was walking in front of the main character and pierced her neck with his paw. After the murder of the girl, all the people panicked and did not know what to do. The guy who led the group told everyone to run. The main character understood that the guy brought all the people to death. He knew that it was impossible to return and realized that he himself would have to figure it out. And he does not think that conventional means of self-defense will be effective in this situation. He picked up the stone. And I realized that it only remains for him to fight not for life but to death, because he did not want to die. Only when he waved the stone again did he see her cute face. The guy did not understand when he became so lousy in relation to those who are friendly towards him. Half an hour later, after some observations, he had an idea of the power of the spider monster. But they do not go beyond human. Judging only by the attribute panel, the half-wife is even slightly inferior to the bodyguard Lin Xiaoyun. At the same time, comparing yourself to the regiment, the data in the attribute panel is very accurate. For example, his power and physique are twice as bad, and his will is 4 times better than hers. So to hell with martial arts thoughts, yeah. And if he used a sneak attack on her, he still wouldn't be able to defeat her. And you would have your spider monster really stronger than a human. Even so, she wouldn't be able to kill a human in one fell swoop. Therefore, if one monster wanted to kill someone, they would see it. Wow, he's attacking. It smells. I still don't understand why the ancient god arranged all this at all. They are his noble warriors. Therefore, their hands must inevitably be covered in blood. And you can easily guess what the attributes of power and physique are responsible for. But what is the will responsible for? And why is his will so high? It's because of his spiritual talent, guy spirit. Maybe that's not the whole effect. If anything, any abilities? The guy tried to convince the spider that she was a pig by the power of thought. Nothing happened. In any case, he has the Alphonse skill, then the local spider monsters will not attack him. Therefore, he can explore this location without being afraid of anything. He dressed up that he'll be lucky and he'll meet somebody. Someone who can kill spiders with one blow, and hope that then he will be able to make friends with him. Although he went very far, he came across only corpses. And he has not yet met a single living soul. He counted 8 to 9 dead members of his team. It was obvious to him that if they acted a part anyway, probably death, but even so, there are still traces of those who survive. Because the severed limbs of spider monsters are scattered everywhere. Yes, and corpses too. Turning the corner, he saw a pseudo-leader who was leading a group of people. 2 spider monsters latched onto him and he had no chance of survival. The main character was wondering what he would feel if he saw a whole flock of spiders behind him. And he doesn't need to be afraid. I still help him in what situation was not found. How convenient that the gigolo skill works by itself. And he doesn't have to do anything at all. He did not understand how much more he had to go and how big the cave was. But at that moment he saw that the path ends at a huge cave where in the middle lies a chest and on it is a human-like spider. And at his footsteps she woke up and took her weapon. In her status, it was written that she was the mother of a spider and she was also friendly to the main character. He understood that he was very lucky because this is the boss of the dungeon, and if it were not for Alphonse's skill, he would have died. At that moment, the spider pushed the guy and several dozen spiders began to carry the guy on themselves to their mother. He thought that maybe they want him to marry her. Because he treated the spiders like sisters. The mother spider hid her weapon and began to approach the guy. He started saying that his name is Lin Hao, but she can call him just a little mouse. And he asked her name. At that moment, she touched his face with her cold hands. He hoped they would at least talk. Then he will show her his well-hung tongue. The spider started tearing his clothes. He tried to stop her, but she glued his limbs to the floor with her web and also covered her mouth. The guy already thought that he would say goodbye to virginity, but she simply tore his clothes off to change into clothes made of spider silk, which she herself made. It was written in my status that I satisfied my most secret fetish, and now she is experiencing the greatest happiness. And that friendliness for the guy will never diminish. Lin Hoa told her that he wanted to help the spider with cleaning, because it must be very difficult for her to do it. He approached the chest saying that if things are not pulled out for a long time, then they can become moldy. Then the voice of the ancient god was heard in his thoughts. He was surprised that someone would get the ultimate reward without even killing monsters. The guy asked if he would be given any additional awards because he did an excellent job with this level, and he achieved this only thanks to the sensitive guidance of the ancient god. He was congratulated for receiving the best award that theoretically no one can receive. The chest opened with a golden glow and a book flew out there. The ancient god said that this is an epic book of transmission props. In order to get detailed information about it, you need to touch it, and to call her to use the mind. The transfer props book allows him to learn all the professional skills written in it. It's like getting skills in an online game, but right now he's only allowed to get one thing, and he decided to choose a monster tamer. As its name suggests, it can contract with monsters. The contracting ceremony is not very complicated, but his mental strength, the attribute of will, must be higher, the adversary A. And it is necessary that the monsters do not resist and he can succeed. The origin of the ancient gods, the origin of this wonderful book. He was not interested in the origin of this profession. Left the choice to fate, so to speak. Background information and skills on my mind and on my body is, of course, good, but now it is useless. Right now, he can only control one monster. If he wants to get more minions, he needs to become stronger. But exactly how perfection is not described in this book. So he believes that he was blatantly deceived. During the battle, he can summon his contract monsters. And in turn, they will follow his orders. The quality of their coherence will be made up of the will attribute. While the handsome hero has to hold the sword in his hands and fight on his own. And he will prefer to stand behind and watch while his contact animals extract all the blood from the enemy and crumble his organs. The book asked if he accepted the profession. The guy immediately pressed yes. And now Lin Hao will no longer be a mere mortal. He is now a mortal who controls terrible monsters. The acquisition of a profession was embedded in his head as well as the introduction of skills. Everything is based on the power of his mind. He can already roughly judge in advance the complexity of concluding a contract with a monster. The complexity of a contract with a mother spider is probably more than that of the little spiders in front of him, because the will is much weaker than him. They were impressed by his charm. But even so, the complexity of the contract with them is simple. At that moment, the mother spider approached him and began to wave, trying to explain something. He did not understand what she wanted to say, but looking at the complexity of the contract with her, he saw that it would be easy. And I was surprised because she is the boss of this level why he can conclude a contract with her as simply as with simple spiders. The strength of her mind reaches 6 points. Just 2 points less. So she's just as strong there, so why should it be much more difficult to make a contract with her, small spiders, more than her will is 6, which is only 2 points lower. Also her level and the total number of attributes in total is much stronger than his. But most likely it's due to Alphonse's skill. In this case, if he makes a contract with monsters, he must choose among those whose will is weaker than him, but the overall strength of the attributes is stronger. And this spider suits him. The protagonist asked the ancient god, since he got the profession of a monster tamer, if he could make a contract with the spider and take it for himself. The ancient god was very surprised and could not answer anything. The guy said that he just thought it was a little sad that his little sister would stay in this dark place and guard this level. All alone. He knows what it's like to be alone. He has been alone since childhood. No care and love, no craving for life. Even after the operation, no one came to see him. He began to press on pity and said that being alone is not very bad. All his life he has somehow got used to it. The old god said that he can do it, because his desire is not against the rules. The protagonist began to make a contract with the spider, since this level can easily create a copy of her in case of loss. He should not lose the opportunity to collect it for himself. In the end, he does not know what awaits him at the next levels. The next boss will not be a girl, but a man, and then what will he do? In the future, they will fight together. I'm sure she will gain a lot of experience and level up. A bright future awaits them. After the conclusion of the contract, her body completely changed to a human one, and it was quite convenient for the guy. I wondered if it would also be with the next contracts. God announced, after a minute, the task will end and everyone will return to their original area. The guy was surprised that the task ended so quickly. But he thought that by concluding contract with the boss of the level, he finished it faster. Perhaps this is due to the fact that the purpose of their stay at this level is only to explore the depths of the cave, and not to defeat the boss. The strength of the spider reaches 13 points, twice as strong as that of the fighter who knows Muay Thai, and the agility is generally 3 times higher. Mission completed, teleportation begins. After the teleportation, the ancient god announced that the beginner's mission was over, and the reward for completing the level would be distributed to the personal terminal in the form of points. To call it, you just need to quietly pronounce the name of the ancient god Agatha Nicholas in your head, and a blue screen will appear in front of the person. This is a personal terminal that records your information. It can only be seen by the person who called it. You can check your main attributes, points and task rating. People began to brag about how many points they had, although they understood what their use was. After the great old god Agatha, Nicholas graciously gives an hour for the formation of teams in order to have a better chance of surviving the next quest. The protagonist, before teaming up with someone, decided to call, meet and find out the characteristics, and said the name of God in his head. There he saw nothing of interest. After all, this panel looks like an imitation of his skill and life. At that moment, Xiaoyun ran up to the boy and began to ask how he did his task and if he got hurt. At that moment, he felt the spider begin to get angry. He was surprised that after she went into his shadow, she could still perceive things in reality. He understood that if he was with several girls at once, he would lose favor, Kofi, and can break the signed contract. There will be no relationship between him and the members of his team, he cannot see. The guy reassured the girl and said that it was impossible to get hurt or die on the first mission, so she didn't have to worry. The girl asked how many points he scored for his tasks. He replied that he had not yet had time to look and opened the statistics, where he saw that he had 0 points. He realized that they can only be obtained by killing monsters in the level, but he went without killing them. And so he took 3,051 seats, and also saw that the bodyguard took 10th place with a score of 110 points. But the girl told him not to ask her about it, because he does not want to tell what happened there. I suggested that he join their team, because Brother Wei is a Muay Thai master, and it will be much safer with him. Well, he decided a long time ago that I would never fall in love again. Walking through the back streets, they met bandits. One of them turned to the girl. Miss, this is the last time, you understand. In the current situation, all the statuses and the position of the past no longer matter. The guy didn't want the guys next to me, ex-lawyer, seemingly and legitimately favorite guy. But this guy is an angry, rabid dog. Good fighter. In this world, you can only rely on strength. The girl replied that even in that world she realized that he was a disgusting person. To get more points for himself, he drove old men and women. And he tried to seduce those girls he liked. And when it didn't work out, he just took them by force and then killed them. Then he said, that's how it will be easier. The performance is higher. She didn't agree with that, she took such a disgusting approach. And asked him what he plans to do now. The bandit replied that he wanted to be surrounded by strong people and continue to use strength to get more and more. And he invited the girl to become his woman. After all, he thought that together they would become the most powerful subordinates of the ancient gods. And the abilities that they will receive from them will give them unimaginable advantages and make them the kings of this world. The girl did not expect that he would become such a bastard. She wondered if it was the same with all men. As soon as the law ceases to restrain them, they throw off their fetters and become beasts. The main characters took the girl with his hand and said that she would not look at these bad people. He did not promise that he would not become like them. The bandit thought that Pony was very weak and said that in this world he was just meat for the strong. They were about to leave, but the bandit stopped them and their head said that she would not let the girl go just like that. She objected and said that this is the main city of the ancient gods. He not only has no right, opportunity, photo to kill. He told her that if she wants to rise to the top, then let her join him because he single-handedly managed to get into the top 10, and recruited good people among 5,000 players for his team. Okay, I understood that as soon as he played enough with her and lost interest, he would get rid of her like a grown-up kitten. She took the main character by the hand and began to run away from the bandit. But my nose jumped up and wanted to strike at the root, but the pair successfully evaded the attack. The girl understood that if she tried to run away alone, then she would succeed. But she could not just leave the guy. The bandit ordered his subordinates to kill the guy, and he himself wanted to take care of the girl. Lin didn't know if he could summon the spider now to kill the guys. But he didn't care that murder could be punished. He can't just let them kill him. Let the gods punish him, then at least they will die together. That is, at that moment the guy called the spider. She took out her weapon and swung it as the guys started to run away and killed them. At that moment I realized that there was no punishment for murder and he could kill the leader as well. I didn't understand your bandits. Why is the mother of the spider from the assignment here? This spider is just huge and the strength and speed of which she demonstrates far exceeds those that she had in the task. If he gets into a fight with her, he will be ground to powder, so he fell to his knees and began to ask for forgiveness. He said that he was wrong and asked to have mercy on him. He also asked for forgiveness from the girl, but she called him a two-faced asshole. And she started beating me with her fists. After all, she is sick of one thought, she once completely trusted him. Now the protagonist has no doubts left. Xiaoyun was knocked down by this big guy. She was definitely from a family of cultivators. Although she has a very kind heart, even though she is straightforward and sick of evil scum. Now the guy understands. The world does not need a strong partner and he thinks he can rely on her. At first, the main character thought that he would kill the bandit, because the council from the system wrote that he would want to return to break all his bones. Bandit nachal over to apologize and said that if the same spider was not around, he would still and did not touch him with a finger and asked to be released. This girl and I were wondering if Lin Hao really wanted to kill him. She understood that the bandit had come to hell and behaved like a bastard. They also didn't know each other for so long. Killing him is overkill. But she wanted to put those thoughts aside because he just wanted to beat the main character to death. So she had no reason to stop him. And if anyone I blame in this situation is the ancient god for the fact that he owned all the good people into demons. Well, more precisely, he showed the true side of each. At this moment, the main character I looked at the girl and understood what she was thinking. He said that he had already punished the bandit, and since he sincerely apologizes to him, he will forgive him. But the spider was still unhappy, she still wanted punishment for the bandit. The guy explained to Wei 11 that he did not have any intentions for him, but the spider with whom he concluded the contract would take action against all creatures that wanted to kill him. And his words mean nothing to her. I first bow to the spider. I hope that she asks him and will not kill. She swung and just wanted to kill him when they were stopped by the ancient god. He said that in the main city, players are not allowed to harm each other. Okay, read the status in the window that even though he messed up the rules, but you're not her god is friendly to him, so close your eyes to the act. He began to say that the ancient god punished the main character. After all, he had already killed 3 people. In the status window, the guy read that you are not a god, still friendly to him, and in the tips it was written that he would try to kill this bastard again because God is still friendly to him. The thug said that although Lin Hao was not the direct murderer of his 3 deceased comrades, so he should not be punished, the spider could not avoid responsibility. She asked to be destroyed immediately. After all, otherwise he cannot imagine how many innocent people will be killed by this murderous monster in the future. The protagonist said that I will not. What would he post his drink? He did not know at all correctly. So besides, he said his excuse that it was Wei 11 who held a grudge against him in his heart. She also told her people to kill him. So Kofi's sister was only protecting him. God replied that it was said that in this space our warriors are forbidden to inflict in front of each other. So the rules would be implemented right now. The bandit was surprised that the god took his side and was not going to punish him. He wanted to get rid of the guy as soon as possible. After all, no one can control the bosses of the dungeon. Lin Hao ordered the spider to return, because now no one can repair his harm. Thank the great old god for following the rules. And from now on, no living soul will suffer. Wei 11 did not understand how it happened because the guy killed 3 of his subordinates, and the girl beat him and nothing would happen for it. He understood that the guy would not stop there and would continue to subordinate the same monsters. Leave it like that and turned to the ancient god and said that he could not act as unfair. I said that if his glorious warriors found out about the injustice, then everyone would turn their backs on him. At that moment, lightning struck him from the sky and what caused him to receive moderate injuries and lost consciousness. When God leaves, he will remind me that his magnificent wars should harm each other. The girl asked if he was in control of the spider. The main character replied that he was lucky because she knew him as her master, but at that moment she did not obey him and killed the guys herself. After all, the only thing he wanted was to escape with her without leaving her here without protection. The girl began to calm him down and said that they had done nothing wrong. After all, these people themselves are to blame for their death. After all, even it was not God who did not punish him. He did the right thing. Suddenly, the voice of God was heard. He said that the crime of a punished suicide bomber with him can only be atoned for by hard labor. Violating the rules of the suicide bomber of newspapers, he has long been something more terrible. At this moment, the main character was teleported somewhere. After the teleportation, he thought that the ancient god was a bastard, because he himself said that he would not punish him, but sent him here anyway. But he knew that he needed to be more careful in the future. After all, for the time being, everything is in order with his body, he was just lucky. Who knows how things will turn out in the future? At this moment, he praised the spider and said that he had a smart girl, brought all the suffering with him. It's hard for him to imagine what he would do without her. But he didn't know where he was. At that moment, they began to speak well. He said to his lovely warriors that before announcing their first official mission, he had one more thing to tell them. At that moment, each of them had to listen to her attentively. The god explained that everyone had already become familiar with the functions of the ancient god panels. And there they must have seen the existence of points of the dungeons. The resulting name points are an estimate of their successful dungeon adventure. For each task, the method of scoring is different. This time, beginners receive points for each damaged monster in full, but in this space, beginners can get points for literally anything. There, the concept of money no longer exists. To get anything you have to pay with points. Be it everyday needs or rare items. All this you can buy for points. Yes, she also said that she noticed that people are social beings and the division of labor in a group is the most effective way of working. Therefore, he specially set up for them the ways of transferring objects to each other, and also initiated their confirmation with the help of the power of thought. He hoped that this function would be useful to them, that is, this task includes a trading room that he equipped for them is their permanent base camp. This is their residence, their supply station and starting point. For the assignment. Outside the execution time of any, no foreign objects will penetrate here. But this does not mean that during the task you will not die, consider that there is a risk. And at that moment, the ancient god began teleportation. And sent to one planet out of 10,000. To this unknown and new world. This world and the others you will enter in the future are not very different from each other. Yes, and I was poorly explained that rather he means not only the type of life, but its intensity. Rather, they will meet unknown forms of life, different laws of nature, in the word of which every world is built. All of them are different from each other. They all start from here, this is the first starting point. 2 months 60 days of the calendar on your home planet they are for preparation. Studying and collecting information about the world. Mission points at this stage will be divided into 2 parts: exploration and hunting. Husband for beginners, the longer your desire lasts, the more basic survival points will not be received. And also you warned me badly not to try to hide in the starting location. So then do not earn any hunting points and exploration within 48 hours will be destroyed. And in this world there will be no resurrection after death. Either experiences of death will now be real. Yes, they really can die here. Of course, merciful God, his lovely warriors immediately died. And give them 3 hours to prepare. Once that time has passed, yesterday's barrier will open and the quest will officially begin. Whether it's rest-only gear with supplies. Please sit down for the last time in a quiet pastime. People began to wonder what is in these portals. Some people were resting while others were gathering supplies or weapons. Everything would be fun because they did not know what awaits them beyond the barrier. The main character was sorry that you could not buy anything to drink for the last task. He did not receive 0 points. But if he does not have points, he can simply take them away from another. The guy came to the bandit and immediately wanted to run away, but there was a spider in another country. The hero told him not to panic because he just came to discuss the recent incident. The bandit began to shout that he was not afraid of his brat. But this spider scared him a lot and reminded him of the rules of the ancient god. He has no right to harm him in any way. The spider glued the limbs of the bandit to the wall and he began to say that he did not have any weapons or supplies. And he only had a lot of points and he could help the guy with them if he let him go. The guy agreed to this and said that he really liked the idea. Although he didn't come here for that. The main character offered him to give him all his glasses. And then he will forget all the insults. She went out and didn't want to give everything. 50 points or more. But he also needs points to survive in this world, and if this doesn't suit the guy and he still wants to take everything he has, it's better to kill him in this world. Those who have no points left have no chance of survival. It is customary to see that he has no claims against him. It's not him who doesn't want to let him go. His spider. She liked it, but it's not for his own sake that you want to take all the points of a bandit. Unites them to great and to suppress it. Without doing this, sooner or later she will come for his soul. Remember how the spider measured the size of your body. Did it to make a living doll out of you. This is the natural nature of spider monsters. Turn defeated enemies into living puppets and manipulate them at will, that is, most likely you, in God, will not give a damn about it. After all, dolls made by a spider monster are technically still alive. If he hadn't found a couple of ways to suppress her before, she would most likely turn him into her puppet right now. So he has few options. He literally has no one to ask for help if he wants to be rescued from her. The guy will need a lot of points, so I saw that the bandit had untwisted his clothes and immediately panicked and thought that the truth would make him a living doll, so he told the main character that he would give him 80 points, no more and no less. After receiving points, it was written that the exchange of points between players does not affect the rating of the system. Nika is crazy fighting for trash. Yes, besides, all these low-quality goods are even unpleasant to look at, there are almost nowhere that they grabbed onto them so much. 3 hours of preparation is more than enough. There is no limit to the number of items they can acquire, so why they fight for them is an interrogation mark, and besides they don't even know what exactly they will face in this study, so why are they eager to spend all their points? Langer got himself a portable shopping assistant. With its help, as long as he has enough points, he can purchase the props he needs at any time. Therefore, he is not afraid of the troubles that he may encounter while exploring the world. Let him have only 5 uses, and for one study it will be enough. And then he can buy the same. He solved the problem with the props. Find a way to increase your own strength. And he decided to go to the potions zone and literature zone. In the zone of literature, no requisites are divided into 3 categories of money. But there was no profession of the protagonist monster tamer. In other words, he has something like a hidden and rare profession. Right now, he only has the skill of making contact with a monster. Corresponds to level 0. Unlocking the next skill needs level 1. He can increase the skill level of making a contract with a monster, have 2 monsters under his command. As for the ordinary skills, he must buy them with the points he receives. Profession skills are automatically unlocked as you level up the profession. General skills are acquired for points. Only then can they be equipped. Busy with literature, you can only buy books on general skills. These are exercise techniques. To the 4 main attributes of the character, where we are literally everywhere. The rest are useless. According to the instructions, as soon as the exercise technique is established and removed from me, it is impossible to equip a technique with the same attributes. After equipping any of those, the body automatically starts training with an emphasis on the selected direction. At the same time, you can take your own initiative and do physical exercises yourself. So not only selected attributes will grow physically too. The white 0-level exercise technique can increase the attribute to a maximum of 3 points and the blue ones by more than 4, and this causes some problems. When he was in the potion area, he glanced at the description of the so-called renewal breakthrough potion. At level 100, the limit of his attribute is 9 points. If anyone continues to improve the selected attribute, it is necessary to take a potion to interrupt the update, switch from one to another after leveling up. The attribute limit of just the same level will be automatically increased by 1 point, and so on with each level, i.e. the limit increase by 10 points with each level. Main character lets go to such talent, because his initial level of will is 8 points, if he uses a white quality technique, 1 point and then drink a breakthrough potion, he will increase the level to the first and further if you press 2 natures, the best attribute improvement effects in the highest quality exercises, and they will not increase it to 17 points, that is, they are not able to create conditions for increasing the will, that is, fortitude, to the 2nd level. The main character turned to a random passerby, and realized that he was very sorry to see him have the lowest attributes among all that he had seen. Regardless of the number of points received, the maximum that the 1st level shines for him. This is somehow in addition to skill books in the insurance center. There should be other ways to better attributes. If he guessed correctly, all of these methods are in the chests nested in the treasuries. They can be obtained for completing tasks. The meaning of his professional ability is to make contacts to control monsters that are weaker than him. But Alphonse's skill can charm girls more than him, so it is better to focus on the increase precisely from the attribute will, the others will score. Thus, when she enters the Iphonic and the monster tamer profession, he will be able to subdue monsters stronger than himself. Resolved first, he spent 20 points on level 0 mind exercise technique. Let it be possible to regard someone, raise quite a bit. He would submit for an update. After using the book, the will began to rise. Some movements similar to yoga automatically arise in his mind. Apparently, if he engages in meditation, he will be able to increase the effectiveness of mental exercises. At that moment, a guy approached him. He introduced himself as Shinkai and gave him his business card. It was written about the sale of secondary housing. He asked for forgiveness because he could not get rid of his old habit. He said that he was not here to sell housing, but in order to invite the main character to the team. Indeed, in the end, even the ancient god himself said that now you can come for real. So he is going to the team to act together and increase the chances of survival for each of them. At that moment, the captain of the other team said that when I left the boy, he did not want to join his team. The salesman left and said that even though the guys did not join his team, he still hopes that in the future they will be able to work together. Did you cover something? According to the established development route of the protagonist, he will have high mental strength but a weak body. His profession is SSR rank. And he should not reveal her true nature, and join teams he can't call reliable a member. The surname of your man who stood up for the guy Lu, and most likely this is the same Kaji Bo that is included in the top 5 players for points. The guy was written with the name Lu Kaji. We advanced to introduce yourself and said that he can call him just a little mouse. This guy's attributes are too high, he really is a genius. A new attribute status during training means using 3 attribute enhancement techniques at the same time. The main character asked why the seller clung to him. Did he really want to take all his points? But Kyoji reassured him and said that he was really looking for teammates. At that moment, he noticed that the protagonist bought himself a portable mall assistant and said that it was a wise decision. Indeed, compared to other players who have purchased some consumables for all their points, he definitely has more potential. And he started talking about his team. It's called the Kings of the Earth. There are about 50 of them. And they are the best of the best in this IKEA. That is, now someone who has amazing talent. To lead the team attire with him. And invited the guy to join them. The protagonist thanked him and said that such things he should discuss with his sister. So he will go. At first, he thought that he wanted to get involved with some Sai because he himself is weak, but he also has a spider girl, so that these lone wolf points alone are no worse. Let's go to a team, a real weakling. At this moment, when the main character left, the bandit turned to the commander of the Kings of the Earth. He said that guy was a weakling, and on top of that, he was too proud. He presented himself as the king of the whole world. Most likely you will not want to cooperate with ordinary people like you. The bandit wanted to convince the captain because if Lin Hao joined their team, his position in it would be in jeopardy. But the captain believed that the guy did not understand the affairs of this world. Questions consults with his sister. And he doesn't even have an opinion. And besides, if he does not come, he does not need to force him to join them. Didn't ask if he was afraid of him, if there is any conflict between them. The bandit said that in fact they are some sort of graters. He assured him to join which team he would take responsibility for, and the first one in front of him head. Well, he is afraid that even so he will not forgive him. The commander reassured him and I said not to worry. Because if he joins their team, he will mediate their conflict. Each comrade in command is important to him. You should not have any strife. In the entire team, he has the highest attributes. A bandit is coming. And so he gave him the details that each member of the team chipped in. That is his fighting power. He will use it. And their team in all missions will rely on him. In notebooks, he thought well. He wanted to be the man that the top team would concentrate the lion's share of their resources on training. So his strength will grow more significantly, and he would be a simple lone wolf. He wanted to accumulate enough points to get the best props. And then first destroy the spider and after the arrogant asshole. At this moment, the main character decided to give the spider a name, because somehow he will continue to address her like that. He knew that she liked sounds like chirping not, so he decided to name her Xiao Ji. At that moment, he saw Xiaoyun, who came up to him and asked how he was. She also apologized for her bodyguard and gave him a gift. It was an amulet that protected from severe injuries. It was of excellent quality and was worth 40 points, which means she spent all her points to protect the guy and left nothing about herself. She said that she needed to go and said goodbye to the main character. Talked to the spider and told her to protect the girl if she was in a bad situation, because that way they could cash in on her kindness. At that moment, they prepared to remove the barrier because 10 seconds left. Everyone was already waiting to go hunting. Not Bad announced that the preparation time had expired and told his warriors to explore the uncharted area, because in this way they would dispel the fog of obscurity. Both will all be displayed on the map. In addition, they will be awarded intelligence points. He told them not to delve into nature in the fog of obscurity. That is, this is superfluous, so that they are sure that the points he will be awarded are all fairness. And while they are busy investigating, he will publish hunting assignments. There they will receive hunter points. At that moment, when all the people were explaining, they rushed to the unknown. The main character deliberately lagged behind so that no one saw him. People thought he was a weakling and they would take all the good things for themselves while people like him were left with nothing. But when all the people had already gone ahead, the main character called for a spider. I held his hands and he told her to run forward. For they ran about 5 kilometers, that is, people would be surprised and thought that it smells on the map. After all, they had just been the first to explore this area. The fact that for 5 kilometers he was given only 1 intelligence point. The danger zone next to the battle camp is large enough, perhaps the ancient god suggests that they are still too weak to face the monsters. The protagonist did not meet them. But if you take into account how many they came and the scale of the map itself, it turns out too much. It feels like the duration of this mission won't be a shortcut. And besides the issue of fighting monsters, they have to consider the issue of living in the wild. Thanks to Xiaozi, the protagonist made it this far on the first day. The only pity is that he received only 10 intelligence points and the hunting task did not appear. You need to score at least 200 points to get the level 0 upgrade breakthrough potion. If he only wanted to recruit them through research, it would take a very long time. The guy watched the forest. The lowest level monsters are always sneaky, with all sorts of insidious tricks. They are all at 0. They have weak stats, so even for him they won't be a big problem. At that moment, a sign appeared in front of the guy with the task of hunting. It was written there that you need to clean these varnishes from forest goblins in front of you. The reward for the task is 5 points. Objective, you will receive an additional 5 points for successfully creating confusion. The protagonist explained to the spiders that they need to attack on the sly, because even a weak opponent must be taken seriously. After the spider surreptitiously attacked the goblins. Because of what the main character received a message from the system, he was awarded 5 extra points for creating confusion. The guy was he earned a few more points. And at this rate, he will earn a breakthrough improvement potion after 17 of the same times. The spider mercilessly killed one goblin and the other, although they tried to escape, but they did not succeed. As soon as Lin Hao wanted to leave, he was attacked by real goblin scouts. It was written to the council of the system that these guys are like divided dogs. They can train non-stop for 20 hours, their level is higher than that of the previous goblins. Real warriors are scouts, not fishermen. They are a well-coordinated team. They say ants can kill from an elephant. He didn't understand what to do, because the goblins could already harm the little sisters. We need to retreat, but if he comes down right now, he is also a target and they will definitely catch him. Well, if he asks to get dodged and pick him up, she will put herself at a disadvantage and it will be easier to attack her. He did not understand that they were in the most nesting goblins here, all forest professions. There are born scouts from whom it is impossible to hide. He asked a shopping assistant to recommend an item for him to retreat to. And he only gave out 2 items. The first, costing 10 points, will start 5 seconds after activation and create his fog in a 100 m radius from the item. The fog is dense enough to block vision and lasts 60 seconds, but it can be used to retreat or attack enemies unable to see through the fog. The second option costs 2 points after it will run for 10 seconds, and randomly teleport a person to a safe zone within a 1.000 m radius from power no matter how dangerous your situation is. Ban them did not work so that she would suffer and use the scroll. After use, they fought back for 10 seconds and after they were teleported. After they were teleported, the main character looked around and saw that it was still safe there. At that moment, the spider hugged him and the guy was surprised that she was teleported along with him. He was very glad that she was with him because it saves him from having to figure out a way to bring her back if she had not been teleported with him. The spider was upset that they could not win. But the guy reassured her and said that this forest is full of monsters, they will not become stronger and then they will be able to deal with everyone, that is, they are newcomers. And all beginners also have areas. Tactical retreat. Also the guy was very happy to see they backed off in a timely manner and received if only minor scratches. Her combat power has not been reduced. She's still useful. They didn't decide to first look at the map and figure out exactly where they were teleported. They were surprised because the area where they fought the goblins had not been explored. When the ancient god announced the rule, he said intelligence is awarded in accordance with his standards and rules. Nobody named which ones. We succeeded and decided to continue exploring the territory. They later found the citadel of the forest goblins. After the main forces of the fortress or from the accumulated were withdrawn to respond to external threats in the face of the protagonist, so now there is almost no one left in it. And the guy decided to take advantage of the opportunity and turn their lair around. The alert from the system was written for them to destroy the forest goblin forward fortress. Forward fortress of the forest goblin army, now speaking. Their task is to cause maximum destruction. Points depend on the degree of destruction of the fortress. The higher the degree of destruction, the reward points. The guy was very happy to see him, and so he initially wanted to spend points to take revenge, but it's even better that he not only takes revenge but also compensates for his expenses. If his memory serves him, about 100 forest blankets went in a different direction at the moment when they headed to fight him. And this fortress is small, something like just so much forest it should not contain in itself, so there must be other fortresses. The spider's agility is very high, so she should now make full use of her speed advantages. The protagonist briefly wanted to talk about arson, or rather the highlight of the guerrilla war. That night, a massive fire broke out in the nearby forest goblin stronghold. In the hair of the forest goblins, the arsonist was so elusive, it was hard to develop it. The only thing they didn't see was a purple silhouette disappearing from view in the blink of an eye. The next day, they burned down 5 forest goblin fortresses in one go, excluding the cost of points for flaming glue. Their net income was 30 points. Now the main character has 68 points, which he thinks he deserved. If you repeat something similar a few more times, maybe in a couple of days I will be able to purchase an improvement potion. The attack of his antics angered the soldiers of the regular army of forest goblins. They began to frantically track down his tracks, so this area is temporarily unavailable to him. But in this area the map is now safe. We simply do not have forest years left. And when the main character made his revenge, he wants to start research from the beginning. Xiao Tzu, don't overthink anything. This is a strategic retreat. I call it the enemy to spend all my strength looking for me, I'm hiding. We leave this area to another point, we can safely earn new points. And when we collect enough, we will buy ourselves new equipment and then we will smash everyone. Xiao Ji, did you hear something? In a safe place. But when a spider reacts in such a strange way, it even annoys me. Enemy approach? Yeah, now I understand why the spider reacted like that. She saw the old man Wei Kai. The old man apparently formed a team with other players? Yes, the team approach of concentrating almost all of the team's points on one person is really effective. They can rely on him and trust his abilities. Even if you can't level up, you can still rely on good gear to increase your maximum attributes. Enemies are coming. Feel the impact of a level 0 blade. Damn, am I sleeping? His O-level skills combined with special weapons and equipment, and increased stats from equipment, makes his attack speed even faster than Xiao Ji's. And do not speak understood that he would not tell them, that he is clearly not the kind of person to keep close to himself. The squad leader told the others not to worry. After all, they are the strike force of the squad and do everything possible to earn as many points for intelligence as possible, and then put them in the team's common bank and distribute the pair among themselves. Everyone will receive points and fastened with new equipment. Everyone in the squad shouted that their captain is cool. The Guardian thought that everyone in the detachment of idiots would never understand that the so-called fair distribution is not at all equivalent. After all, when the time comes to share points, he will get most of all the main character and will become stronger and stronger. After completing the tasks, he will earn 100 points and buy himself a special weapon oil. His blade, and increase its level, and then he will definitely be able to get rid of the spider. And the main character, he wanted to slowly cut off every piece of his body from him so that he squealed until he died in order to have plenty of fun. At that moment, the spider cut the throat of the bodyguard with a precise blow. And why everyone in the detachment was surprised. The squad leader thought that even though the Wei Kai had increased his strength, even so, he was still not a spider. If he had been in his place, he would not have survived either. After the murder, the spider instantly disappeared. Following her, the commander shouted that it was a monster and he didn't care where it came from. After all, she killed a member of his team and Lu Kaji would not leave her alone. Now she is his sworn enemy. Everyone in the squad started shouting that their captain is well done and that they can feel safe with him. He was glad that she herself decided to leave, but if not for this, he was afraid that she would have killed all of them here. And he wondered where she came from. His entire team was sharply frightened and lost their morale after her appearance. It remains to yell at her in order to somehow save face. It was already the third day of the study. A goblin with a wooden bat was chasing an unknown boy and girl. They were surprised how fast he ran. The one they bought didn't leave a scratch on him. They didn't know how to get rid of him. The moment the guy used the crossbow he bought to shoot the girl in the knee. And why did she fall and could no longer run? He wants to use her as bait so the monsters won't run after him. The girl was very surprised. After all, they had known each other since high school and her family helped him with employment. He shouted out if from what her family already knows very well that his parents are poor and he needed their help. They also loved him more than her. And he wanted to get rid of her for a long time. He wants to live. This time he will definitely get rid of such a thing in his past life. Will achieve new success in another world. At that moment, a goblin with an axe appeared above the guy and killed him. And the goblin who pursued the girl beat her to death and with a club. The area that was recently illuminated turned black again. The fact that an army of forest goblins invaded there and founded a fortress there. Apparently the rules voiced by the ancient god at the very beginning were not babble. The worst outcome that comes to the mind of the protagonist is the inability to stop the advance of the forest goblins. All players are in a safe zone. Well, they will soon begin to besiege it, and in a couple of days the goblins will kill everyone, because the players could not score points. And such a mighty lone wolf as he can fight the forest goblins at most in the conditions of the guerrilla war, summon earn points, enough extra chewing. At that moment, the spider showed the guy an ordinary scout forest goblin. In the light the system was written to survive in the wild and there is a lot to put up with. The protein content of meat and goblins again is 3 times that of beef and tastes like crispy chicken. But the local forest goblins are completely different. If you eat them, a nightmare will happen. Didn't understand what the notice was hinting at. After all, the system is not some old witch with grey hair. And then the hunger spider wanted to eat the goblin she caught. The main character tried to stop her. No, he did not evaporate some there. He just doesn't want her to eat crap. After making the contract, she no longer needs to eat, he supplies her with his magic power. Therefore, in order for her to survive in the wild, he needs to feed himself. He the hero was hoping there would be edible beasts. Well, or in extreme cases, fruit. Who would have thought, there are no forest goblins here. He has already sat down on all his stocks of bread. Now he needs to eat. He asked a sales assistant for advice on nutritious diets for survival in the wild. He accepted and began searching. And gave him a dragon's liver, and a blue phoenix of excellent quality for 666,666 points. The guy was surprised and told him to narrow the search area down to 5 points. And the cheaper the better. Suspension consultant found a low-quality means to saturate the white ordinary quality. This potion allows players to get rid of hunger without spending a lot of money. Since this is a low-quality product, although there are some side effects, it will not affect health in any way. The protagonist remembered his seemingly useless skill. All the people she choked on these pills. And earning points every day it became harder and harder for them. They already have just one look at these pills, nausea begins. If only they could make it last a few days. Then they wouldn't have to waste points on this crap. The guys looked at the main character and were surprised that he was going to eat grass. But his scavenger skill turns out to be quite useful, because after eating even a simple grass, it seemed to him that he was eating a magnificent delicacy. People did not understand what happened to him and what really was nice to eat grass and grass roots. Building to destroy the team of ordinary soldiers of the forest goblins completed. Reward 20 points. The last days of the protagonist mystery watch the trajectory of the forest goblins, determine the most appropriate time and place for an ambush. This is how he asked the spider to leave the web trap, so he was able to limit their actions. These regular soldiers are quite weak. But only one by one. If they work as a team be beaten. It took a lot of effort to intercept them one by one, but despite this, the recipient received many scratches. Spider Girl, they begin not to take out from each battle. The hero wants to keep his advantages, he has 2 ways. The first to hire more monsters as assistants. Strengthen it. It remains to hope for his break with the help of a potion. Then some professions should be unlocked. He has already accumulated 300 points. My characteristics and abilities have not yet reached the limit. So his breakthrough is impossible. At that moment, he had a breakthrough. I realized that his meditation in his spare time was not in vain. His will is finally his limit. He can now use the refresh potion. The mobile store has only 3 purchase attempts left. It's too wasteful to use them now. Even though they've come a long way in the past 5 days, they still need to get back to the store, to the potion area. Fortunately, the main character has Xiao Ji. With her help, they will get there in half a day. And the recipient was very glad to see that she could hug her master while she ran to the store. Already in the potion zone, he noticed that no one else had returned during this time. Well, for him it was for the better, because there is no unnecessary need for a spider to hide. I took the cherished potion of level 0 increase, worth 200 points. Every drop is. I think it should not be wasted. The hero opened a flask with a potion and began to drink it. Who is cooler has already given this moment, he seems to have begun to feel the changes. The speed of his thinking has become faster, he feels something that did not exist before.